Collecting cards is one of the most fun and exciting aspects of any trading card game, and nothing beats the rush of pulling one of the rarest cards out of a single booster pack. Oh my god! But what happens when that rare card you pull is actually one of the rarest cards in existence because it never should have been printed in the first place? What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Today we're going to be covering some of Yu-Gi-Oh's craziest misprinted cards of all time, and this video doesn't even scratch the surface because I know of several other individuals who have massive collections of these cards. This video is just the beginning, so if you want to see more of it, be sure to let me know down in the comments. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. This all started when I made a post on Twitter asking for people to send me their favorite Yu-Gi-Oh misprints because I saw this picture of Lila, Lightsworn Sorceress, and this was just insane. This is what they call a foil shift, where the foil is shifted in a different direction from where it should be, and foil shifts are actually one of the most common misprints there are. Moving on to our next picture, that first Lila isn't the only foil shifted Lila, it seems, that is out there, and not only that, there's not one but two copies of Solar Recharge as well that all have been shifted in a similar manner. Oh man, this one is so sick. Here we have Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys, a very similar foil shift to the ones we saw before going into the bottom left, but I love if you look down towards the bottom, like where its talon is, and it looks like it's almost jumping out at you. It makes it almost look three-dimensional in a way, and foil shifts are just awesome. Here we have some more foil shifts, but these ones are even more fascinating because not only do you see the big boxes for where the artwork is supposed to go, and in the instance of Wind-Up Kitten, you can see 4 stars and an attribute, but there's also the boxes for the outline of the effects as well, but they're actually at the top. And looking at this, I think it actually got almost reversed, because if it's a level 4 and that attribute, if you look very closely in the bottom left corner of Wind-Up Kitten, almost looks like fire, that may be the foiling for the Evil Source Serato on the left. What a crazy one. Next up, we have another foil shift. This is Odin, father of the Aesir, but then we also have all 3 of the Nordic gods foil shifted in some way. What's fascinating here, though, is that this Odin is a different foil shift than the previous, because if you look closely, you can see that the levels, or at least where the levels should be foiled, are actually in 2 different locations. So again, it's cool that there's different, even foil shifted variants of some of these cards. The foiling on these Nordic gods is just insane, though. I mean, if you look at Thor and Odin specifically, you can actually see where the foil was supposed to be printed on the border is almost covering the attributes of both of these cards. Here we've got a few more foil shifts. I think foil shifting to the bottom left seems to be the most common, at least from what I've seen across all of these types of misprints. This next one is actually really sick because it's actually a playset of Dark World dealings that are all foil shifted in some different way. So the fact that there's a whole playset of a card that has been foil shifted, that has to be like a 1 in a million find for this collector. But misprints can sometimes even date back to some of the very first sets in Yu-Gi-Oh! Take a look at this Imperial Order from Pharaoh's Servant. You can actually see where the foiling was supposed to go for the old man's beard, his hand, the side of his cloak. We also have Mask of the Accursed and Mask of Dispel. Mask of the Accursed isn't too bad, but this Mask of Dispel was already a freaky looking card, but now this card just looks possessed. I love how there's a similar downward foil shift on this Mage Power because it almost looks even creepier than it already is with these monks chanting. Oh, I love it. Even this copy of Call of the Haunted, I mean, I just love how it just adds so much to the card. It makes it so much more eerie, and it's a first edition, which we've seen a few first editions up until this point, but it's definitely the exception more than the rule. And of course, we can't forget about our good old friend, Blue Eyes White Dragon. Even the legendary Engine of Destruction itself is not immune to being misprint, and this is just epic. So I think we've gotten a pretty good idea of what foil shifts look like. Let's take a look at some name shifts. Now, name shifts, just like foil shifts, are where the name is in a different position that it should be. And similar to the last Blue Eyes, we've got another Blue Eyes right here, and this is actually an LOB Blue Eyes with the name almost all the way down into the card art. With how in demand the Blue Eyes White Dragon is on the secondary market, I mean, people fiend for some of the most pristine, highest rarity copies, but having something like a misprinted Blue Eyes is also a one of a kind. Here we actually have another one of Yu-Gi-Oh's most iconic monsters, Exodia the Forbidden One, not as name shifted as the Blue Eyes White dragon, but this is still pretty cool. Here we have a slightly newer card in Emergency Teleport. This is actually a name shift paired with a foil shift. You can actually see the square going into where it says spell card and the quick play symbol. And then this is just a work of art. If you love ultimate rares, you are going to gush when you see this. A full playset of name shifted ultimate rare effect veilers from Duelist Revolution. I mean, this has to be such an incredible feat to be able to assemble a collection like this. These are a flex. But those effect veilers pale in comparison to what I'm about to show you to wrap up this section, because this is out of this world. Take a look at this. You have Pot of Avarice, Gravekeeper Spy, Gateway to Dark World, Compulsory Evacuation Device that are all shifted onto the separate card to the left. Even you see Book of Moon would have been another one if that was there. Again, being able to find all of these cards to put a collection like this together, this is insane. There are also some other types of misprints when it comes to the names of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and one of which is having a different name altogether. Here we have a Gearfried the Iron Knight with an identity crisis thinking it's Karibo, a Flame Swordsman thinking that it's a Cyberstein, boy those are high aspirations, a Giant Trunade thinking it's Fiend Skull Dragon, which I guess technically makes Giant Trunade legal, and then the best of them all, a Victory Viper XX03 that is named Herald of Purple Light. Also looks like there's a bit of foil shifting up by the levels as well, and a Elemental Hero Wild Wingman named Destiny Hero Diamond Dude. These are just priceless. Remember that Wild Wingman for later, because if you thought that one was cool, you haven't seen anything yet. Not only can cards have different names, but they can also have the same name more than once. Here we have a picture of both a Red Reboot and a Book of Eclipse that were double stamped with the same name, but in the instance of this Spirit Message N that looks like it's in German, there's also a Magic Cylinder secret rare foiling going over this card as well. But just like how some cards can have multiple names, some cards can have no name at all. Take a look at this Retro Pack Jinzo with no name. Boy, I'm sure that's expensive. And then the best of the bunch, a first edition starter deck Joey Red Eyes Black Dragon. I mean, if you're talking about classic Yu-Gi-Oh collectibles, this has to be one of the most highly desirable Red Eyes ever printed. There are also miscuts where when the cards are supposed to be cut into their rectangular shape, the sheets aren't aligned properly, and so as a result, you get cards that look like this. And this isn't just an English distribution problem, because you can see a Korean version of Amazoness Paladin looks exactly like this as well. There's also a type of misprint known as crimping, which is when the packs are actually sealed together at the top and bottom by machinery. You'll notice that there's a sort of perforated pattern there. A card can sometimes get stuck in that sealing process, and then you have what happens to this Red Nova Dragon here, which isn't exactly any sort of miscut or shifting of any kind, but it does make the card a little bit unique. And then you have cards that I don't even know how to explain how this stuff happened, because this is actually the first time I've seen something like this. Here's a Monster Reborn from Starter Deck Yugi, and the Eye of Anubis that's typically in the bottom right corner to signify if a card is real or not and what edition it is just flat out in the middle of the card, not once, but twice. Once in the top left, just under where it says Monster, and another instance to the right of the red gem on the artwork. I don't even know what to say about this one. This one's just weird. And we also can't forget about test print cards. These are actually highly desirable and fetch a pretty penny on the secondary market. These are cards that are never meant to be circulated, but rather test foiling methods for different cards. And so they look something like this, and this is actually one for a secret rare foiling, as you can tell by how glittery it is and the diagonal sort of horizontal glow there. We also have a test print for a first edition stamp. I love how it's just solely for that and nothing else. And then we also have these sorts of test print cards, which I believe either come from Belgium or the Netherlands. I'm sure you guys in the comments will be able to tell me down below, but somewhere over in Europe, and it's just another variety of a card that's meant to get discarded. But as a result of their rarity and scarcity, people actually collect these, and these do actually sell for money. Oh man, this is just a very funny handful of misprints. So I know who's familiar with the Maximum Gold product is already going to be very familiar with this. It's somewhat recent, but this product was a disaster. And so let's go ahead and start off with Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Konami wanted to try out a new gold foiling method for this product going all out, and let's just say it didn't have the best quality control, because you look at this and think, oh, that's not too bad. You haven't seen anything yet. Let me introduce you to Exhibit B, being Constellar Pleiades, and yeah, but if you thought this is as bad as it gets, guess what? It gets worse. Let me introduce you to Monster Reborn, Iron Herald of the Arclight. Honestly, I have no idea how these cards got so messed up, but it's very funny that they've actually become quite the collectible. And then wrapping up the video, we're gonna end on one of, if not my favorite type of misprint of all time. Maybe not these cards specifically, but just the way the misprints look. These cards are sick. Let's go ahead and start off with this Elemental Hero Blade Edge. And if you look closely, it's not any ordinary copy because it actually has the foil stamping of Ancient Gear Golem on this copy of Blade Edge. For whatever reason, around the GX era, there's a series of these types of cards that came out this way, and actually even further beyond that. I think even going up to like Abyss Rising Cosmo Blazer, this issue actually persisted again, but we'll talk about those cards another time. Let's move on to the next one though, of Cyber Phoenix. This one's actually cool because it's not even in English, it's a foreign card. And if you're having trouble deciphering what monster the foiling belongs to, that is actually Chainsaw Insect from Shadow of Infinity. I think what's so cool about these misprints is that they actually cross over sets. The fact that you have a card from Shadow of Infinity's foiling on a card from Enemy of Justice, and same thing for the last one, right? That was an Elemental Energy card with a Lost Millennium foiling, but this last card, this may be one of my new favorite cards of all time just because of how fucked up the misprint is. This card is ridiculous. You ready? Remember I told you not to forget that copy of Wild Wingman from about midway through the video? Well, that card doesn't hold a candle to what I'm about to show you. This, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the coolest misprints I have ever seen. This is Elemental Hero Wild Wingman with the foiling for Proto Cyber Dragon and the name for Life Equalizer. I don't know how this amalgamation got formed. I honestly don't care, but this is badass. Honestly, out of all the cards we've discussed in this video, if there's anything I want, it's this card right here because this is just fantastic. But I'm curious to know what you guys think as well. Let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite because some of these cards were just ridiculous. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface for some of Yu-Gi-Oh's craziest misprints because I personally know several individuals who have quite the deep collection in this regard. And so if you guys want to see more, I'll be more than happy to because I can look at shiny cardboard all day long. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video entertaining or even informative, consider supporting me on Patreon for exclusive early one-day access to the Yu-Gi-Oh Progression Series, The History of Yu-Gi-Oh, and Yu-Gi-Oh Sealed Showdown. Thank you so much for watching the video, and we will see you next time.